The WNBA world has been turned upside down, and it all started with one injury. When Caitlin Clark walked off the court, fans immediately began asking the same question: how serious is it? Within minutes, social media exploded with theories, rumors, and speculation. Some claimed she'd be back in days. Others feared she'd miss weeks, or even longer. But now, new details from her medical evaluation and official updates have reignited the conversation, leaving fans, analysts, and even rival teams wondering what comes next. Caitlin Clark has quickly become one of the biggest stars in professional basketball. Every game she plays attracts massive audiences, breaks television ratings, and fuels nonstop discussion across the sports world. That's why any update about her health instantly becomes headline news. The Indiana Fever season could look very different depending on how quickly Clark recovers. Can the team maintain its momentum without its rookie superstar? Will she return at full strength? And what does this mean for the WNBA playoff race? In today's video, we'll break down the latest official information surrounding Clark's injury, what medical experts generally say about this type of recovery, how her absence could impact the Fever, and why the entire league is paying close attention. We'll also separate verified updates from the rumors spreading across social media, because when one of the league's biggest stars is sidelined, speculation often travels faster than the facts. Stay with us until the very end, because the timeline for Caitlin Clark's return and what it could mean for the rest of the WNBA season is one of the biggest stories in basketball right now. Let's dive into what we know, what we don't know, and why this developing story has everyone talking. When Caitlin Clark stepped onto a WNBA court for the first time, everyone knew she would change the league. What nobody expected was how quickly one injury would become the biggest story in professional basketball. Within minutes of the news breaking, social media exploded. Fans flooded X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube searching for answers. Sports analysts interrupted regular programming. Television networks began discussing what Clark's absence could mean for the Indiana Fever and the league as a whole. Almost overnight, one question dominated every basketball conversation: how serious is Caitlin Clark's injury? For months, Clark has been the center of attention. After an unforgettable college career filled with record-breaking performances, impossible three-pointers, sold-out arenas, and millions of new basketball fans, she entered the WNBA carrying expectations unlike any rookie in league history. Every arena she visited sold more tickets. Television ratings climbed to historic levels. Merchandise disappeared from store shelves. Even opposing teams acknowledged the Caitlin Clark effect. Whether people loved her game or wanted to see someone finally slow her down, one thing was undeniable: everyone was watching. That is why the injury immediately became much bigger than just another player missing games. This wasn't simply about the Indiana Fever. This was about the face of a growing league. The moment the official update was released, speculation spread everywhere. Some fans insisted it was only a minor issue. Others predicted weeks away from basketball. Former players shared their opinions. Medical professionals discussed similar injuries in general terms based on publicly available information. Sports commentators debated whether the Fever could survive without their young superstar. But amid all the noise, one important fact remained: only official team updates and verified medical information can accurately describe Clark's condition. Everything else is speculation. That distinction matters because in today's sports world, rumors travel much faster than facts. One anonymous social media account posts a theory. Another creator repeats it. Soon, hundreds of videos claim to know exactly what's happening. Before long, many fans struggle to separate confirmed information from online guesses. This happens in nearly every major sport: the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, international soccer. Now the WNBA is experiencing the same phenomenon. Caitlin Clark's popularity has amplified everything. Every made shot becomes a highlight. Every hard foul becomes national news. Every interview becomes a headline. So, naturally, every injury update receives enormous attention. The Indiana Fever understood from the very beginning that this season would be different. They weren't simply developing a rookie point guard. They were managing one of the biggest stars women's basketball has ever produced. Clark's impact extends far beyond the stat sheet. Attendance has increased dramatically. National television schedules have expanded. Young fans are discovering the WNBA for the first time. Corporate sponsors have invested heavily in the league. Veteran players have acknowledged that Clark has brought unprecedented attention to women's professional basketball. That attention is overwhelmingly positive for the sport. Yet it also creates tremendous pressure. Every performance is analyzed. Every mistake becomes a trending topic. Every physical play sparks debate. Now her injury has become another chapter in that story. The Fever coaching staff has repeatedly emphasized one priority above all else: long-term health. Professional sports organizations understand that rushing an athlete back too quickly can create even bigger problems later. That's why recovery plans are designed carefully. Doctors monitor healing. Training staffs evaluate progress. Coaches balance competitiveness with player safety. Fans naturally want immediate answers. But rehabilitation rarely follows the internet's timeline. Sometimes recovery progresses faster than expected. Sometimes it requires additional patience. That's simply the reality of professional athletics. Meanwhile, Clark's teammates face a difficult challenge. Without one of the league's premier playmakers, everyone must take on greater responsibility. Veteran leadership becomes even more important. Ball movement changes. Offensive rhythm changes. Defensive matchups change. Entire game plans must be adjusted. Opposing teams also prepare differently. Instead of focusing primarily on stopping Clark, they develop entirely new defensive strategies. The ripple effects extend throughout the league. Sports analysts have already begun asking another important question. Could this injury reshape the WNBA playoff race? The Fever entered the season with growing expectations. Every victory matters. Every missed game matters. Every recovery update matters. That's why fans continue refreshing social media, waiting for the next official announcement. One positive medical report could completely change the conversation. Until then, patience remains essential. History shows that many elite athletes return stronger after injuries because they commit fully to rehabilitation. Modern sports medicine has advanced tremendously. Recovery methods continue improving every year. Strength training, physical therapy, workload management, nutrition, sleep. Every detail contributes to an athlete's return. For Caitlin Clark, the objective isn't simply getting back onto the court. It's returning healthy enough to perform at the elite level that made her one of basketball's biggest stars. As fans wait for further official updates, one thing remains certain. The WNBA is watching. The Indiana Fever are waiting. Opposing teams are preparing. And millions of basketball fans around the world are hoping to see one of the game's brightest young stars back on the floor as soon as she's medically ready. Because when Caitlin Clark plays, the entire basketball world pays attention. And this story is only beginning. As the initial shock began to wear off, a different conversation started taking over the basketball world. It was no longer just about what happened. It became about what happens next. For the Indiana Fever, every game suddenly carried more weight. Coaches had to rethink rotations. Teammates had to prepare for larger roles. Opposing teams adjusted their scouting reports almost immediately. And fans everywhere waited for one thing: an official update that could provide some clarity. In today's sports world, an injury doesn't stay inside the locker room for long. Within minutes of an official announcement, analysts begin offering opinions. Former players discuss similar injuries from their own careers. Sports physicians appear on television to explain, in general terms, how recovery from that type of injury is typically managed. Meanwhile, social media fills with predictions ranging from optimistic to alarmist. That's why it's important to separate official updates from online speculation. Only the team's medical staff and Caitlin Clark herself truly know how she's progressing on a day-to-day basis. Recovery isn't something that follows a script. Every athlete heals differently, and even players with the same diagnosis can return on completely different timelines depending on how their bodies respond to treatment. Professional teams understand this better than anyone. Modern sports medicine has changed dramatically over the last decade. Recovery plans are carefully structured, with every stage designed to protect the athlete from returning too soon. A player doesn't simply feel better one day and jump back into game action. There are benchmarks to reach, strength tests to pass, movement evaluations to complete, and conditioning levels to restore. Missing one of those steps can increase the risk of another injury. That's why patience often becomes the hardest part of the process, not just for the player, but for the fans. For Caitlin Clark, the attention surrounding her recovery is unlike anything most rookies experience. She isn't just another first-year player adjusting to the professional game. She entered the WNBA after one of the most celebrated college careers in basketball history. Her arrival transformed television ratings, increased attendance across the league, and introduced countless new fans to women's professional basketball. Every Fever Road game suddenly became a major event. Arenas that previously had empty sections were selling out. National broadcasts reached audiences that few expected just a few years earlier. Young players wore Clark jerseys. Families planned trips around Fever games. The so-called Caitlin Clark effect wasn't simply a media headline. It became something teams across the league experienced firsthand. That's one reason her injury feels significant beyond Indiana. The WNBA has experienced tremendous growth, and Clark has been one of several stars helping drive that momentum. While the league features many outstanding veterans and rising young talents, her popularity has undeniably brought additional attention to the sport. That makes every official injury update national news. Inside the Fever organization, however, the focus remains much simpler. Winning games, supporting teammates, preparing for the future. Coaches understand they can't spend every day worrying about who isn't available. Their responsibility is to prepare the players who are healthy enough to compete. That means other guards may be asked to handle the ball more often. Veteran leaders may need to create additional scoring opportunities. The offense might look different without Clark directing possessions. Those adjustments happen across professional sports every season. Injuries test a team's depth. They reveal which players are ready for expanded roles. Sometimes unexpected contributors emerge and help keep a season on track. Sometimes teams struggle until key players return. That's part of what makes sports so unpredictable. For Clark herself, the challenge is often mental as much as physical. Elite competitors want to play. They spend years developing routines built around daily practices, film study, travel, and competition. Suddenly being unable to participate can be frustrating. Many athletes have spoken publicly about how difficult rehabilitation can be, not because of the exercises themselves, but because watching from the sidelines isn't easy. Yet rehabilitation is still part of competing. The hours spent with trainers, physical therapists, strength coaches, and medical staff are every bit as important as the hours spent on the court. Successful recoveries rarely happen by accident. They happen because athletes commit fully to the process. Meanwhile, basketball analysts continue debating what Clark's absence could mean for the remainder of the season. Can the Fever maintain momentum? Will other players elevate their performances? How will opposing defenses change without preparing primarily for Clark? These are legitimate basketball questions, and they'll be answered only as the season continues. One thing that shouldn't be overlooked is the resilience professional teams develop over long seasons. Championship-caliber organizations rarely depend on one player alone. They adapt. They adjust. They discover new combinations. They rely on preparation and teamwork. Indiana's coaching staff faces that exact challenge now. Every practice becomes an opportunity to refine rotations. Every game provides new information about what works. Every player has a chance to contribute. Fans, of course, remain eager for good news. Social media continues, buzzing with discussions about possible return dates. Some predictions are optimistic. Others are more cautious. Until official announcements are made, however, those predictions remain just that, predictions. The only timeline that truly matters is the one determined by Clark's recovery and the guidance of the team's medical staff. If history has shown anything, it's that rushing back too quickly can create setbacks that are far more costly than exercising patience. The Fever know this. Clark knows this. And ultimately, the goal isn't simply getting back on the floor. It's returning healthy enough to play the kind of basketball that made her one of the sport's brightest stars. As the season moves forward, Every official update will be watched closely, not only by Fever fans but by basketball fans around the world. Because Caitlin Clark's story has become larger than one franchise. It has become part of the WNBA's remarkable growth. And while her absence is certainly a challenge, her recovery represents something even more important, making sure one of the game's biggest young stars has the best opportunity to return healthy, confident, and ready for the next chapter of her career. As the days passed, one thing became increasingly clear. Caitlin Clark's absence wasn't simply affecting one player, it was changing the identity of an entire basketball team. For months, the Indiana Fever had built much of their offense around Clark's unique skill set. Her court vision, deep shooting range, and ability to create opportunities for teammates forced opposing defenses to make difficult choices every possession. Now, without her on the floor, everything had to change. The coaching staff faced one of the toughest challenges in professional sports, adapting without abandoning the team's identity. That's easier said than done. Basketball is built on rhythm and chemistry. Players spend months developing timing, learning each other's tendencies, and understanding where teammates prefer to receive the ball. When a key player is unavailable, those habits must be adjusted almost overnight. For the Fever, that meant everyone needed to step forward. Veteran players were expected to provide leadership. Young players had to embrace larger responsibilities. Role players suddenly found themselves in situations that demanded greater confidence and consistency. Sometimes, injuries create unexpected opportunities. History is filled with examples of teams discovering new strengths while key players recovered. A reserve earns more playing time and blossoms into an important contributor. A veteran finds another level of leadership. The team learns to share responsibilities more evenly instead of depending on one star. The Fever hoped this could become one of those stories. At the same time, opponents understood the opportunity in front of them. Preparing for Indiana without Caitlin Clark required a completely different defensive strategy. Instead of focusing on limiting one of the league's most creative playmakers, defenses could spread their attention across the rest of the roster. That didn't mean games would become easier. In many ways, unpredictable teams can be difficult to scout. Without one clear offensive focal point, coaches must prepare for multiple possibilities. Could another guard become more aggressive? Would the offense shift toward the front court? Would Indiana rely more heavily on transition basketball? Every opponent had to prepare for those questions. Meanwhile, the spotlight remained firmly fixed on Clark herself. Every official practice report became headline news. Every public appearance generated speculation. Every comment from coaches was carefully analyzed by fans and media alike. That's the reality of being one of the biggest names in professional basketball. Few rookies have entered the WNBA with this level of attention. Clark's popularity extends beyond basketball fans. Casual sports viewers recognize her name. Families who rarely watched WNBA games before now follow the Indiana Fever. Television networks continue highlighting her impact on attendance, ratings, and fan engagement. That influence doesn't disappear simply because she's recovering. If anything, her absence reminds people just how significant her presence has become. Sports medicine professionals often emphasize that successful recoveries require patience. Rehabilitation isn't measured by social media expectations or television debates. It's measured by objective progress, functional movement, and the athlete's readiness to compete safely. That's why the Fever's medical staff continues to play such an important role behind the scenes. While fans focus on return dates, trainers focus on recovery milestones. Every workout has a purpose. Every evaluation provides new information. Every decision is made with the long-term goal of protecting the athlete's health. Professional organizations understand that one rushed decision can have lasting consequences. That's why patience remains the priority. Another fascinating aspect of this situation is how it has energized conversations throughout the league. Former players have shared their experiences with recovering from injuries. Analysts have debated how much pressure star athletes face during rehabilitation. Fans from every WNBA franchise have joined the discussion, demonstrating just how much interest now surrounds women's professional basketball. In many ways, this moment reflects the league's continued growth. Years ago, an injury involving one player might have received limited national attention. Today, every update becomes a major sports story. That increased visibility is a testament to the WNBA's expanding audience and the remarkable talent across the league. For the Fever, however, the focus remains practical. Win the next game. Improve every day. Support one another. Prepare for Clark's eventual return without placing unnecessary pressure on the timeline. Those goals may sound simple, but maintaining that mindset isn't easy when cameras follow every move and millions of fans are waiting for news. Inside the locker room, teammates understand something that outsiders sometimes overlook. Recovery is part of an athlete's career. Almost every elite player eventually faces setbacks. The teams that respond best are often those that remain united, trust the process, and avoid letting outside speculation distract them from daily work. Indiana has embraced that challenge. Practices continue. Film sessions continue. Preparation continues. The season doesn't stop. And that's perhaps the biggest lesson of all. Professional sports reward resilience. Championship teams aren't defined only by how they perform when everyone is healthy. They're defined by how they respond when adversity arrives. For Caitlin Clark, this chapter represents another test in a career already filled with remarkable achievements. For the Indiana Fever, it's an opportunity to demonstrate depth, teamwork, and determination. For the WNBA, it's another reminder of how much the league has grown and how closely fans now follow every major storyline. As the basketball world waits for the next official update, one thing is certain. Whenever Caitlin Clark is ready to return, she'll step back into a league that's been eagerly anticipating her comeback. And when that moment finally arrives, it won't simply mark the return of one player. It will mark the return of one of the most influential young stars in all of basketball. As the season moves forward, one reality has become impossible to ignore. The Indiana Fever aren't just waiting for a player to return. They're waiting for one of the most influential young stars in basketball to be medically cleared to play again. Every game without Caitlin Clark presents another challenge, but it also presents another opportunity. Great teams are often defined not by how they perform when everything is going according to plan, but by how they respond when adversity strikes. For Indiana, this stretch of the season is exactly that kind of test. The coaching staff continues preparing for each opponent without looking too far ahead. Practices remain focused on execution, communication, and player development. Every possession matters because every win could have a significant impact on playoff positioning later in the season. While fans naturally focus on Clark's eventual return, the players currently on the floor have an important job to do. They must continue competing. They must continue improving. And perhaps most importantly, they must continue building confidence together. That's what successful organizations do. They don't pause while waiting for injured players to return. They adapt. They evolve. They find new ways to win. History shows that many championship-caliber teams have gone through difficult stretches during a season. Injuries force adjustments. Rotations change. Young players gain valuable experience. Veterans assume greater leadership roles. Those moments can strengthen a team if everyone remains committed to the same goal. For the Fever, that process is happening in real time. Every game offers another chance to develop chemistry. Every practice provides another opportunity to sharpen execution. Every challenge prepares the team for the months ahead. Meanwhile, Clark continues progressing through her recovery according to the guidance of the team's medical staff. As with any professional athlete, the priority is a complete and healthy return rather than rushing back before she's ready. That's a principle shared across every major sport. Medical staffs evaluate recovery carefully, looking not only at how an athlete feels but also at strength, mobility, conditioning, and the ability to perform basketball-specific movements safely. Those evaluations help determine when a player can return without taking unnecessary risks. Fans often ask why teams don't provide exact return dates. The answer is simple. Recovery doesn't always follow a fixed calendar. Some athletes heal more quickly than expected. Others require additional time. The most responsible approach is allowing the recovery process to determine the timeline, not public pressure or outside expectations. For Clark, that patience is an investment in her future. She's at the beginning of what many believe could be a long and successful WNBA career. Making sure she returns healthy benefits not only the Fever but also the league and its fans. One thing this situation has highlighted is the extraordinary attention now surrounding women's basketball. Every official update involving Clark becomes national news. Sports talk shows discuss it. Online creators analyze it. Fans debate it across social media. That level of interest reflects the remarkable growth the WNBA has experienced in recent years. Increased attendance, stronger television ratings, and expanding fan engagement have created an environment where league news reaches audiences that continue to grow each season. Clark is part of that story, but she isn't the only reason for the league's success. Veteran stars, emerging talent, dedicated coaches, and passionate fans have all contributed to the WNBA's rising popularity. Together, they've helped elevate the league to new levels of visibility. As the Fever continue their season, they'll rely on that same collective mindset. Basketball has always been a team sport. While individual talent can change a game, sustained success depends on communication, trust, preparation, and resilience. Those qualities become even more important during difficult stretches. Every player has a role. Every possession counts. Every game offers another opportunity to improve. Eventually, the day will come when Clark is medically cleared to return. When that moment arrives, expectations will once again be high. Fans will eagerly watch her first game back. Analysts will evaluate how quickly she regains rhythm. Opponents will prepare for the unique challenges she presents. But the most important measure won't be how many points she scores in her first game back. It will be whether she's healthy enough to compete confidently and safely. That's the outcome everyone should hope for. Professional sports are filled with inspiring comeback stories. Many athletes have returned from injury stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Those stories remind us that setbacks don't define careers. How athletes respond to them often does. For Caitlin Clark, this chapter is simply another part of her basketball journey. For the Indiana Fever, it's an opportunity to demonstrate resilience and continue growing as a team. For the WNBA, it's another reminder of how much interest now surrounds the league and its brightest stars. No matter what happens over the coming weeks, one thing is certain. Fans will continue following every official update, cheering for a healthy recovery, and looking forward to seeing one of basketball's most exciting young players back on the court when she's ready. And when that day comes, it won't just be another game. It will mark the return of a player whose impact extends well beyond the box score, a player who has helped inspire a new generation of fans to embrace the WNBA. Until then, the focus remains exactly where it should be: recovery, patience, preparation, and the hope that when Caitlin Clark returns, she'll be ready to play the game she loves at the highest level once again. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest WNBA updates, breaking basketball news, and in-depth analysis. What do you think? How important is Caitlin Clark to the Indiana Fever's success this season? And how do you think the team will perform while she recovers? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read them all, and your opinions could be featured in a future video. Thanks for watching, and remember, we'll continue following every official update on Caitlin Clark and bring you the latest verified news as it develops. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the games, and we'll see you in the next video.